Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the place to be. My name is D Wiz, and welcome again. Today, I'm excited to talk to um, one of my mentors again because as we celebrate this year, 2023, the 50th celebration of hip hop, the 50th year of the celebration of hip hop. I've been speaking to a lot of my mentors, a lot of DJs, a lot of people. When I call them on the phone, I'll ask them certain questions. Biz Markie, God rest his soul, is definitely one of the persons that I used to call all the time. Person that took me record shopping. He actually showed me the difference between imports, rare 12 inches, and domestic copies. He took me to people like Wolfie in the Bronx. Introduced me to Sting. Just one of my mentors, and one of the guy that I'm going to speak to today is also one of my mentors as well. And I want to talk to him and get his point of view on where we are today in the divide of being signed to a major label versus being a totally independent artist, and what a totally independent artist means. What does that mean? If you're signed to a major label a minor label, an independent label when it's funding you, but you're doing your own promotions, is that still being independent or not? Or is independent using all of your own money, promotions? Is it best to do it that way, or is it best to go with the system? And the reason why I chose this person to speak to is because many, many years ago, before we were in this culture where you had to watch things that you would write and say, and jokes that you would say and deliver to an audience. We had freedom of speech inside art, especially inside music, where today hip hop lyrics are on trial right now. I live in Atlanta, and Young Thug is not too far from me on trial for some of the lyrics that he's written inside hip hop. So lyrics inside hip hop today, and I'm gonna talk to him as well about that. And if he were to write today a certain song like that, if he would deliver it the same way he delivered it in the 90s. But right now, let's bring him in. I want to bring in one of my good brothers and mentors, Mr. Bumpy Knuckles, a.k.a. Freddie Foxxx. How you doing, Mr. Fox?
What up, son? It's good, man.
I'm doing well, brother. And, I always call you and I talk to you and ask you certain questions. And I'm
Mm.
sure you heard what I was speaking to people about a second ago about your song, Industry Shakedown. Now, most people are familiar with Tribe Called Quest when Q-Tip said industry rule number 4080, record company businesses are shady. Record business companies are shady.
Said
And
record company people are shady.
record company people are shady. And I want to address that because you pretty much said the same exact thing in your record, and I'm actually going to read some of the lyrics from it. And for those of you that are not familiar with Industry Shakedown, please, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, go and Google Freddie Foxxx back then, Industry Shakedown. I kept pressure on him. Now I'm universal. Now he played this money game and called hand reversal. I remember I thought that could rock at Def Jam. While I was watching all these niggas caught up in a death scam. I remember when I stepped up to Leo, I should have blown him, cause that cracker been a crook ever since I known him. Thought I'd sail to Atlantic, but there's niggas working for them that'll sink to the whole label like a fucking Titanic. And then you go on to mention Sylvia Rohn and many other things about the industry. And bro, like, it's, again, I encourage anyone to go out there. If you want to learn about the record business from start to finish, listen to Industry Shakedown. So Bumpy, tell us about it. What brought you there? And did this bring you flack back then, this record?
Yeah, big time. But I didn't really care about that part. And to be honest with you, I've never really had an interaction with Sylvia Rome before. You know what I mean? I just knew there were certain names that would get people's attention. You know, Lior. I meant what I said about Rio. Like I didn't, you know, I couldn't have said that line in this day and time because everybody's head is in a different space. But they knew what I meant when I said it. You know what I mean? And I didn't, it was actually me just saying, you know what, let me run into the burning building real quick, so and everybody and knock the door down so everybody can go through because I knew it was a wrap from there as far as I was concerned. Because I said, Q-Tip said his line in a nice way. You know what I mean? That was simple. It wasn't I gave him a whole idea. Industry Shakedown was more than just this in the industry, but the title and certain songs and the energy that I brought made people think that the whole album was about that, and it wasn't. You know what I mean? Because it was strategically done that way because I wanted people to take a look at what was going on. You had all of these major labels, in a time when hip hop was kind of just starting to flourish. They didn't understand what the fuck was going on. They just knew people loved it and they wanted to make money. It was a lot of cats that were taking hits financially just to be famous. You know what I mean? And the industry was a lot of cats was taking advantage of that. And then you had guys that were opening up subsidiary labels after they got jerked by major labels, and they were taking that whole blueprint of the major label and doing that to cats that they were signing that was coming off the street. So you thinking you're gonna go to a subsidiary label that is affiliated somehow with a major and be treated different than the majors directly, and it was a total mistake to believe that.
Well, you said two things just now that caught my attention. You said I knew when I wrote that record it was a rap. You
Mhm.
referring to it was a rap as far as like being signed to a major
Oh,
label?
oh, absolutely.
Okay, so does that also it was a rap? Does that also do you think or are you referring to being blackballed from hip hop? Did the DJs support that? You get what I'm saying? Like
Ah,
record label people are different than the DJs that get the records eventually. How
yeah,
did
the
that affect
DJs
you?
was rocking with me, son. The DJs was rock, but nobody could blackball me from hip hop. I don't care who you think you are. I can't be blackballed from hip hop because I don't subscribe to what people think about what I do. You know what I'm saying? Once you subscribe to that, you become a slave to who people think you are, and who you are is who you are. So I knew that writing that was putting myself out there so other cats, and I did it for partly for that reason, but partly because I had gone through that experience. People telling you come in the door, they like you enough to do business with you, but then you get in and they start telling you, no, you got to do this. I know there's a lot of cats now out that's going through that, but they just don't want to stand up to it because they can get their mother out of the hood, or you know what I mean, they can drive fly cars and date different grades of women than the normal grade of women they would normally get because they got money now. But my thing is, fuck all that. You know what I'm saying? Who are you as an artist that you're gonna allow people to tell you to be a certain way? That's not art. You can't walk up to a person that's a painter and say, man, no, paint it like this. You can't tell an artist how to draw a line, and people can't tell a rapper how to say one.
I want to put an exclamation on where Bumpy Knuckles is at for everyone right now because Bumpy is not the only one that has made records about this, that's been talking about this, that's been protesting this. Prince, Rolling Stones, David Bowie. I'm talking about this. This goes way beyond hip hop. This goes way beyond hip hop. If you watch, and I'm sure Bump, you watched. Remember the James Brown movie
Yeah.
when the guy said to him, "Hey man, you are the show, and I'm the business." And
Mhm.
James Brown said to him, "said Nah, I'm the show and the business."
Mhm.
So this thing about the industry and the people inside the industry has been a conversation. Again, it's been for decades. I guess since the music business has formed to be what the way we know it today, the big billion-dollar industry it is. And as I'm telling people this, Bumpy Knuckles is definitely not the first, last, or one of the only voices that's been saying this. He's with so many other powerful, strong voices that's been talking about the industry. Now, moving forward, now you said as well, hey, I knew it was going to be a rap, and you also said, look, I didn't meet some of these people, and I knew it was going to do the it was going to have the effect that it was going to have. Did that have the effect that you anticipated it having?
I don't think so. I think it hit for a minute. People got it, and then they, the collectors and the class, because I was performing Industry Shakedown before I put it out in Europe. I was in Europe with Premiere and touring, and before that, I was performing that stuff on stage just as freestyles. And then when I came to doing the project, I knew what it was going to be, but Europe grabbed a hold of it really first, because they already were hip to what I was talking about and what I was doing. I was, what I mean? And when I was out with Gangstar moving around, they knew me for that, those kind of bars. I had more records than that I put on the album. The original Industry Shakedown, Pete Rock did the whole thing.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? And then when I decided to put it out, I had a bunch of albums. I had a bunch of Premiere stuff I did. I had a bunch of Pete Rock stuff, and then I met Alchemist on the Smoke and Grooves tour, and he gave me a cassette tape with all these beats on it. And I was like, yo, this dude is nice, man. He was on the back of the bus with Be Real in them, and he was making beats, and he gave me this cassette tape, and then I listened to that shit, and I was like, yo, I put him on Industry Shakedown, you know, and then I did a joint on there, you know what I mean? And then I did a couple joints on there. I had MOP on there. I didn't want a lot of collaborations because I didn't want to drag people into,
What
you know
this
what I'm saying?
thing?
You know how people they're way. I said that in a time where it was hard to forgive it. You know what I'm saying? But nowadays, if somebody said it, they look at it as marketing. I think 50 Cent was masterful at creating that space when he did How to Rob. He created this space where you could say certain things and it still be fun, and you had to figure out how serious he was. And that's like a real piece. You got to be some kind of creative to do that.
Brother,
I
he
didn't
had to
have
listen.
that. I just said the fuck what I felt. You know what I'm saying?
No, but he had to listen to Industry Shakedown to get that inspiration because, as you said, what he did was masterful. But the blueprint to that, with the wordplay and the way he put in the Kurt Franklin's and all these other people, it's the same exact wordplay in Industry Shakedown. And if you're not familiar with these labels, or when you said something about electric car, etc., you're not going to get it. And it's just as lyrical and it's just as brilliant. So, and you just brought up 50 Cent about that. Now, his, catapulted him and it started a big conversation. People like Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, Green Day, these other artists that came, or and bands that came after you and start just like waving his flag, right? Now we're here where we have Spotify, we have Apple Music, you have Tidal Music, and you have these aggregators that help us, or help an independent artist that you were speaking to back then, get inside my computer, get inside my telephone, where music is today. People don't buy records and CDs. They listen to most in their car, telephone, or whatever. So I would say that these type of conversations led us to where we are today. Are you happy and satisfied where the independence of music is today? Or do you wish, hey, I think it could be a little more regulated for the artists?
Um, you know what I think? I think that where we are now, I kind of always hoped for hip hop to be here in a sense of that, where you don't need a record company. But I do think there should be some sort of like, the bad part about it is it's over flooded with a lot of bullshit. Like it's like people they trying to make everything so easy. You know what I mean? I never expected that part. Like I thought it was a special thing when a person got on turntables and did that magic. There's still a big difference between DJs that still use a traditional kind of vibe when they play versus cats who they just accept how easy things are. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying everybody should still want to carry crates of records. That's not what I'm saying. But technology wise, I think when you become a slave to technology doing everything for you, then where's the talent in that? You know what I'm saying? You become a motherfucker who's studying how to figure out a program as opposed to learning your chords on your keyboards or your bass notes, or even how to program your sampler or chop up a sample. And the methods are becoming too simplified where nobody's thinking anymore. And I'm a big advocate of writing rhymes because it helps you use your brain. It also identifies you as the artist because it's your handwriting. So when you're dead and gone, that shit becomes a classic piece of work. Like everybody, imagine if Tupac's lyrics were all in his phone. You know what I'm saying? Nobody would have
Right.
these scribes right now that this brother left us. You know what I mean? The letters that he wrote, everything is identifiable. So, but your phone battery died and your whole shit is out the window.
Do you write lyrics in your phone at all?
I write lyrics in my phone, and then after I finish, I write them on a piece of paper, and then I store them in a file. I got a file of all my lyrics.
My first experience with that, and it was weird to me. I was in California with Dougie Fresh, finished doing a show. It was with Karis One, and Karis had invited Doug to a studio session right after the show. So I go with Doug to the studio session. Inside the studio session is Karis One, The Game, Big Daddy Kane, and Dougie Fresh, and they're working on one record. Word. And I'm in this session. And bro, this is back when iPhones first came out. The Game actually said, "Yo, I just finished my lyrics." And he showed it to me. He was like, "Yo, look at, here's right here. Here's my verse." And that was just weird to me. It was the oddest thing. I was like, wow, I guess this is where we are, or MCs are. Like, they have the technology to write lyrics in their phone as opposed to, oh, yo, who got a pen? Let me get a piece of paper. Let me get a quick piece of paper. And I do come from that era where you guys would say, oh, yo, who got a piece of paper? And you write something down on a napkin or whatever. And that's what I'm asking. It's like, hey, did you ever convert to writing lyrics inside your phone?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be a fool not to take advantage of the convenience, but at the same time, I look at the things that I do as art. So I know that my handwriting and the way that I write my stuff down is the way I do it, and can't nobody duplicate that. And there's certain things that I put on my paper that I know identifies it as Freddie Foxx's original piece of work. So that's the kind of stuff you want to archive. Once you realize that you want to take this game serious enough that you're going to leave something for the culture, your family, your kids, your people that love you, your fans. I think it's bad to leave your fans with nothing other than just your records. And now with everybody, being able to tell a computer, hey, rap like this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Now you got to leave them something, man, that's really yours. You know what I mean? I got a mold of my fist on a mantle with my name and all these things. Like, these things are the things that my fans, the people who love me, are gonna say, yo, I want that because that's Bumpy shit. Bumpy gave me that. You know what I mean? Or Bumpy had that. You know what I mean? That's personal. You can't do that in a fucking iPhone or phone notes and shit.
Bumpy, the way I see what you just said, and I say this to so many people outside of just music and art, 1,000 years from now, what you just described will be considered artifacts to Freddie Foxxx.
Yeah, pretty much.
You get my point? They'll be considered artifacts. 1,000 years, 2,000 years from now, when they're studying hip hop and the characters, etc., or just not that, your lineage. As you said, my daughters, etc. I totally encourage people to document anything that they got going on in life. Like you just said, yo, D, I got my fists. A mold of my fists. I totally encourage that. So you just spoke about technology as far as an MC. I also know, and many people know, that you also are a producer. How do you feel about technology in the production world? The advancement of going from, as you said, sampling on an MPC to using Logic and things of that nature. Do you like technology today?
Yeah, I actually embrace technology in that respect because you asked me about, like, so when I did Industry Shakedown, right, I had started to learn and teach myself and just asking a lot of questions in the studio to engineers on how to produce, because I knew I was going to need a way to still keep doing what I love to do, knowing that I couldn't go knock on a label door somewhere, or there's a lot of cats that was going behind my back that was telling me, yo, that shit you did is fire, but then they'll tell a label person, nah, I don't fuck with him because he said this about so and so. They, they was all in their feelings because of me being honest about what I seen. I'm like, yo, this is some bullshit. You can't tell somebody that they signed to a label and they part of a family, and then they come to the office and gotta wait downstairs at the front desk. Your moms
Right.
make you
Yeah.
stand on the porch when you go to her house, or you can go in. You know what I'm saying? What are we
Right.
doing
Yeah.
here? Like, don't use that word family so loosely now, because it's not. It's business. And that's the tricknology that they use. They start this family talk, and then everybody that you see, tell me how many rappers you done heard claim to be part of a family, and then they at some point of that they end up complaining about being robbed or taken advantage of, or not to say family don't do that, but it hurts more because you using that word. Using that word family.
And that's when it hurts.
You know what I'm saying? You telling me I'm part of something, and then all of a sudden, y'all motherfuckers gonna make me go get a baseball bat and bust your face in
Right.
because you try to take food out my baby mouth and shit. Like, that shit ain't cool.
So
You
you
know,
were signed to a major label before Industry Shakedown.
I was signed to when I got out of high school in 1985. In '86, I had a deal on Atlantic through Nia Records, the Alim brothers. And that was through Ulti Fresh Productions, which was a company that I got to. Cap Mellow Rap, my brother Cap.
Yes.
Put
Shout to
me
Cap.
on. Yeah, he put me on to Tony and Ulysses Sankitz, who signed me and Supreme Force to a production deal, and they got us a single deal on Nia Records, which was the Alim brothers. Remember, they did Release Yourself.
Yes. Released
You know what I'm saying?
yourself.
Right.
Right.
So I've
Believe it.
been going into these label situations here and there, but the Eric B situation is where I got a lot of my insight from. You know what I mean? Eric used to take me to meetings with him, right? And he would say, yo, they would try to tell me to wait outside or something. Eric was like, nah, I want him he's with me. I want him in the room. So he would take me into the meet. I would see these lawyers. That's how I met all these lawyers. And I met all these record executives. And I started seeing a lot of shady shit, man. Like, yo, dude. But, when the money is flying around, ain't nobody asking questions as long as the money's flying around, But I'm a guy that like to see balance. If we're going to do business and I agree to, I get 25%, you get 75%, then don't steal my quarter. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get yours and steal my quarter. That shit'll get you fucked up in the street. So I didn't have the balance in my brain to not see it like that. You know what I'm saying? Some
Right.
people say, well, I got to pay my dues. I play. And that's, I can see where that makes sense, where you could take a hit here and there and say, but I didn't come in the game like that, man. We was, it just was weird for me. So I'm good with everything outside of being involved in that shit. So the technology side of it, I embraced that because I knew I was going to need it 20, 30 years if I wanted to still keep making
But
music.
did you see this? Because making a record like that in the 90s, as you said, I knew it was a rap for me, D. I just knew I was going to get support from the industry. I just knew it was a rap. When 50 Cent did it, it was 10, 15 years after you did it. And the business had changed by then. Did you see the Spotify's, the Apple Music? Did you see this then?
You know what? See, the difference between what 50 did and what I did is when 50 did it, a lot of the people that was in charge was close to being his peers. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They understood where he was coming from. These motherfuckers I was coming at way, they wasn't my peers. They was older than me. They wasn't used to this type of shit.
They were the ones that were letting us inside the business or not.
Of course. And that was the difference. So they didn't take it the same way. That's like cussing in front of an old lady and then cussing in front of her daughter who's younger, who understands the streets a little bit more. You know what I mean? Two different situations. So
yeah, but again, did you see where we are? Did you see this coming? And if you did, like, what led you to see it? If you did,
I kind of saw it because a dude, old school cat, told me years ago about this. He said, "Yo, there's gonna be this new thing coming out where you can send somebody a message on a computer, like emails and all of that shit." And I was like, I had to try to teach myself this because I remember when I first got my first Pro Tools system, the shit was a PCI card in the back of a Mac Performer, I think it was. the tan Max computers, and you put the PCI and
Yes. Yeah.
RCA
We called them
jacks and
audio
shit,
cards back then. Yeah.
audio card
Yeah.
type thing. And I was like, yo, and I was trying to figure out. I was angry because I was a plug and play producer. We was pulling wires out of the input, putting them in this, put that. You know what I mean? And then shit started to change, and I was like, yo, this is gonna be crazy. So I figured out either I'm gonna stop it, it was stressing me out, or I'm gonna learn it. Type of dude I am, I needed to know what this was because I wanted to get good at it. I wanted to be good at, being able to still make music when everybody else was telling me, oh man, ain't nobody doing this and you ain't doing that. Every record I got on, I tried to demolish that shit, bro. I brought the pain on everything, and everybody was looking for that. KRS-One, Gangstar, whether it was MOP, whoever. I gave them the best of everything I could give them to make sure that nobody could ever say, well, one thing they can't deny is talent.
Right.
You're a talented motherfucker. You gonna get recognized. They gonna say, yo, I can't front on him. He's nice.
Stay there. Do you really feel that way? Do you think the music business is based on talent? Do you think it's really a meritocracy where the best go to the top? I felt that way as a youngster. I don't anymore, bro.
Not now. I don't
Bump.
feel like that now. I felt like that with my situation because I knew if I'm gonna make all this noise, I better be good at what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If I'm not gonna be one of them niggas that want to be. I don't like being popular for drama and all of that shit. I don't like that shit. I want people to know what it is that I do. You know what I'm saying? But people are gonna they don't want to hear the real story. They want to hear the best story. You see what I'm saying? So people will say what they say and they'll try to I always tell people, man, make sure y'all put out your documentaries and tell your story, because when you die, somebody gonna tell it wrong and fuck it up, and they're gonna make you out to be who they want you to be. You know what I'm saying? And this one guy sent me this picture.
It's happening right now in real time.
Of course, and people are caught up in what people think because of the internet. You know what I'm saying? How many likes is approval? If people don't like what you do, they don't approve of it. That's not necessarily so. Some people see you but don't want you to know that they're looking.
Bump, I'm going to give you an example, an everyone example on how what he's saying is so factual if you don't put your own narrative and story out there. So today is 2023, and we have this term, Bump, watch this. It's called Karen. Oh, such and such is a Karen or whatever. Today, a Karen is the person that gets on your nerves.
Mm-hmm.
I see it. Everybody online, oh yeah, this Karen such and such, this Karen blah, 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 blah. But the term Karen is only, 3 or 4, 5 years old, and it doesn't mean just a person that's getting on your nerves. Karen comes from a racist white woman that has a racist white superiority complex to specifically say, I'm going to call the cops and say a black man is attacking me, and I know and you know what the cops are going to do to you. That's where the term comes from. So you have to be of that mindset to be a Karen. But now it's remixed to where it's just a person that gets on your nerves, and that's really kind of offensive, to really be honest with you, because people die from that. Let me actually change this. People die. People die. People die from that phone call that woman, Karen, made. That's not just a person that just gets on your nerves. People die from that phone call. So as Bumpy is talking about, when you remix something or you don't put out your own narrative, we see it today in real time. And you also mentioned a lot of things that I actually want to talk about. Actually, I just went on my little tangent just now.
Like they did that with the term woke. I know what you're trying. So basically, they did the same thing with the term woke, right? You know what I mean? They took it and flipped it and made it a bad thing, where it was more like, yo, stay woke means to be aware, be on point. Stay on your game. You know what I mean? Be ready, be sharp.
You want to stay here? We could stay here. How about this, Bump? You come from a day and time when there was a term called ebonics.
Oh, yeah.
Ebony phonics, right?
Yeah.
And it means black talk, Ebony meaning black people, phonics meaning speech, the way black people talk.
Right.
And now, dope, fresh, you got shows on HGTV, Flip This House, and these are all street terms that comes from ebony phonics, ebonics. And that term, Bumpy, people don't even use that term anymore because we were demonized for using terms like dope and fresh and these terms that are now inside not just American culture, that are around the world. Around the world. But when you were using these terms, or even the N-word, the world is using it. Just ebonics, just that term alone, I don't think would come out of people's mouths because it would actually put the spotlight on them once they start using terms like dope.
Right. I think that the way I look at that is just the power of hip hop culture, because
Speak on it.
the power of hip hop culture is that in the beginning, when nobody believed that hip hop would be anything bigger than a fad or a couple of years, or there's plenty of people who can attest to somebody saying to them, "Oh, don't get too caught up in that because that ain't gonna last too long." And the fact that we're able, as a culture, and I'm speaking as a culture, broadband from the originators, Herc, Bam, Flash, Mel, Kaz, all them dudes, all the way up to what everybody is calling weird right now, it's still hip hop and it's effective because you can't pick which branch of the tree you like better. You know what I mean? It's still part of the tree. So we've been able to affect cultures across the world, and that's what's so sad to me about this 50th anniversary is that we're still not on the same page. The originators, this is like a birthday for them. You know what I'm saying? They know they were there, and then the new heads don't feel attached because they feel like, you know what, they making it some old head shit. They don't want to affiliate with nothing older than their parents. You know what I'm saying? Or their grandmother, in the sense that, but not in a musical term, but in a sense of being attached to something. And the middle ground of mid 90s and the middle MCs in the middle of all of that shit, they're stuck between keeping it real with the originators who they study and the new heads who getting all this money and collaborating with everything. It's wrong, man. All this shit is just a big gumbo of fuckery because nobody's talking about music. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the music needs to be talked about. You can't ever negate the originators and the music that they made. And to me, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that the old heads and the original guys that made this shit can't negate the music that's being made now because it's all part of the same bloodline. So it may change, but you can't be mad at somebody for doing what their era requires them to do. They're creative inside of their era, man. We become attached to the times that we live in. We define the times we live in. When those times are gone, all you could do is keep moving in them times and add new shit to it, or either fall back and live in your moment and own that shit. If you're an old school motherfucker and you like old school hip hop, then keep making that shit. Because there's still people who want to hear it. There's still people who will play that shit. Just keep making it. Don't let the legacy die with the idea that don't nobody want to sign you or don't nobody want to play your record. Nigga, you on the internet.
Right.
You can put your you know what I do? I know that things that go online will be there long after I'm gone. So I try to make sure that my timeline is filled with things that show people my creative ability and the stuff that I do. People should be conscious of that. Because you fuck around and kick off tomorrow and your Instagram page is what people need to know about you. Some of the dumb shit that people are focused on and reposting them and posting over and all that, that's what you're really leaving. This shit becomes your obituary. Your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your Twitter page. So if you a 50-something-year-old rap dude and you ain't showing them, you're going to show them what you showed them, but you're going to leave them what you showed them as well. So keep that in mind. Just, so people can see your work, show them the unreleased joints. You got a minute. You can control how much of it you give them. You can control how it's seen. Other than the fact that Instagram don't fucking know who these artists really are. Some people post their own shit and get blocked, but
Right.
those little hurdles you have to learn how to get over. But at this end of the day, you gotta put your catalog or your music out in a strategic way so that when you gone, it don't look like you just focused on stupid shit on your platform.
You know, you're dropping a lot of jewels, and I want to actually like capture one of them that you're dropping, and it's about technology. And you also mentioned about you're mentioning a lot right now about online. So I know and I'm familiar with. There was a time when you had a we didn't call it a podcast back then, so I'm going to call it a show that was online, and it was called Corrupt Mob Radio. Um, Tell us about that. How did you get into streaming online way before we are here today? And I want to actually get into some of the origins of some of the first people that did this uh, streaming in a hip hop form the way we do today, like Scratch Vision.
Right.
We have so many things. So, what got you into this streaming online?
Well, first of all, it started with Maceo, DJ Maceo from Day Life. It started with him doing the dugout, and I was doing a broadcast on an app, but it wasn't. You couldn't see me. You could only hear me. And I don't even remember what the app was called. It'll come to me. But
Was it Ustream?
no, it wasn't Ustream. This was before Ustream, and it was a little app where
Go way
they
back.
couldn't see me, but they could hear me. But me and Macy were always tech talking on the phone, communicating back and forth about how to be better at the marketing game and what we're doing with marketing. So he's
Maceo
the
from De
one
La
who
Soul, you
said,
talking about, right?
yeah, he did the De La Soul dugout. So he asked me to come on and do a show, and it took me a minute to do it because he was like, "Yo, you should do this show." He convinced me to do it, and when I did it, I was like, "Yo, this is kind of dope, man." And then he discovered Ustream. When he discovered Ustream, he called me and he said, "Yo, we should do this shit on this platform." And he and I both studied it together. He showed me things and I get it, and then I dug into it deep and showed him things. And the next thing you know, we got a live stream going up. And then he called up Evil D. And when he called up Evil D and showed it to the beat miners, they developed their show. I don't know if Scratch was doing something different. I don't think it was Ustream, but whatever he was doing something different. But we all ended up coming together, and they had this thing called BDS. Now, BDS stood for Beat Miners, De La Soul, and Scratch.
Okay. Oh, drop
Right?
it.
Right? So now I didn't have I was down with Maceo, so they didn't put me involved in the abbreviations and all that. But I knew that I was going to end up doing my own thing because I have my own show, but I'm not known as a DJ. So I'm on this platform with all of these amazing DJs. Maceo's a DJ, Scratch is a fucking DJ with a cape on, and you know what I'm saying? This
I love it.
motherfucker can't fuck with this. I'm like, yeah, how do I do a show that can compete with what these guys are doing? And then the arguments started. Cats started arguing over the time, who's going to go on when, and who, and me and Maceo was doing it, and we was doing whatever we wanted to do. But now we done incorporated all of these other alphas who decide that, listen, everybody start throwing their resumes on the table. Like, yo, dog, I did Whoop Wop Whip, and I'm doing Wednesdays at 8:00. I'm going on. And it started to become where cats didn't even respect other dudes getting on. It was like, dude be on broadcast. We were supposed to do this together. Dude get on broadcasting, and next you know, he don't want, I don't want to be on the same time as Scratch because it splits the audience. You see what I'm saying? And when that started happening, it was a wrap. You know what I mean? It was like, but it was a great idea, and I'm not a DJ, so I had to figure out a way. How do I know how to DJ, but I'm technically not a DJ. Like,
So up until now, these DJs are DJing records. They're DJing, right? It's just,
no,
it's like listening to a radio station. They had their own mix shows.
yeah, it was mixed shows, but they were playing like Beat Miners had a really dope show. It was right there. All of their setups, you could see their turntables. You could see. They want you to see them DJing. That's what these dudes do. They do. They get on and they put the camera on the turntables. You see all of this shit going on, and they really playing. Really playing. I was really playing, but I didn't want people to see that. I wanted people to see the dynamic of my personality on air. So I didn't want to show them what I was doing. But everybody who came for my interviews, whether it was John Cena or Sway or you or whoever, y'all saw me actually doing it. You know what
Wait,
I'm
but you're
saying?
going too
But
fast. Wait, don't go there so fast.
you
Because
know,
in the beginning, like you said, you had DJs. You're like, yo, D, I'm not a DJ, so I had to figure out a way to make my thing what it is. And the
yeah,
reason why I don't want you to go too fast is because what everyone's doing today is what you were doing
yeah,
then, not being a DJ. So how did we get there? Because we start. It's the talking thing that you start getting into when these
yeah,
guys were DJing.
yeah. I wanted to be. I wanted. To, I had to. I had to figure out how do I make this funny, hip hop. How do I make it? How do I make it? You know, cool for people to come in a space. And I started bigging up the fans. Like I said, I made it about the people in the chat room. So we became a family. It was like Corrupt Mob
You
family.
guys had a chat room back then?
Yeah, they had a chat room, and I would say these are my moderators. I would put certain people in place to moderate for me, which showed that I trusted them. You know what I'm saying? Because moderators could do all kind of shit. They could kick everybody out. They was watching my back, so to speak, while I
Back
was
then?
while I was in there basically playing the music, doing the drops, you know, add all the lights and the smoke machines and all this shit, and doing controlling the computer with the split screening and all of the stuff that I was doing one by myself. Sway was bugging. He was like, "Yo, that's crazy." Clark Kent was there
Yeah,
one
I
day.
want to know who'd you see? Who was your inspiration? D, I had two screens. I had the fog machine. I had the lights. Like, come on. Where did this come from, Bumpy? At that time. How many years are we talking about now?
Yeah, that was
Back.
man. That was a long time. What was it? Oh, 04, 03, 04, 05, something like that. 04, 05.
You're describing drink champs today.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about inspiration. I think it was more me just trying to be as good as the rest of those guys was, because I wasn't showing. I'm like I can DJ. I'm gonna give it 100. I can play records. I can blend records. But when it comes to all of that fancy shit them dudes be doing, man, these guys are iconic for that. You
Yeah,
know what I
you had the
mean?
top-notch DJs
So
with you. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So and I had to learn how to DJ because there was times when I had to get scratches done, and I would do my own scratches. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to be. If I'm going, I learned every element of hip hop. You know, the drawing, the
Right.
graph part. You know, the breakdancing part. I did early in my career, like early in my life. Rather, I was a young cat out there breaking and stuff. And then I learned the MC part, of course, and then the DJing part, of course. You know, and then everything else that comes along with it. I wanted to know the culture, so I had to learn how to play. Now, saying that, I respect Scratch, Maceo, and the Beat Miners to a degree that I would never want to try to put myself on that level, because that's not what I do. But this is what I do. So I wanted to show them different. All of their shows had some sort of a similarity. It may not have looked the same, but they all playing records with the turntable showing and all that. I just had to switch it up and choose something different. And that's what my inspiration was. Don't do the same shit somebody else is doing. And even to that day, I'm like that. I don't want to be looked at. People out here will call themselves legends for doing what another person did the same way they did it.
Say that again.
They'll
I
do that.
heard what you said.
You know
Say
what
it
I mean?
again.
Nigga say, "Yo, I'm a legend, dog," and it's something that you did the same thing somebody else did the same way they did it. You didn't really create nothing new. You just probably had some spark that person didn't have, and you got more money doing it. But to me, the individuality of a person and their ability to stand out from the crowd and still get the look is what's special. Everybody can. It's so many dudes that can rhyme, fam. Like, I
That's
mean,
right.
there's guys that know how to take words and put them together spectacularly and get on a beat, sound great. But they nothing special about them. They just know how to rhyme.
Right.
And
Agreed.
instead of being accepted as, they'll tell you, I'm a legend, nigga. I'm the greatest. They forcing you to believe this, and their talent is basically pretty good. But there's the special cats, man.
Know them.
Cats. you know the cats who touch the turntables. Now you got everybody and their mama could DJ, but you
Word.
know the cats that are walking the room. You know the Kid Capris and the, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and the DJ Scratches and the
Clark
Premiers and the
Kent's. Yeah.
Pete's and the, you know, and the
Jazzy
Terry
Jeffs.
Hunters. You know what I'm saying? Those cats, the cats that come in the room and you go the Jazzy Jeffs. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that because these guys may be famous. You know what I mean? But it's just what got them to that point is there's something special about something that the same thing you do that they do. It's just something special about them doing it. Those are the guys that you know have the ability to say, yo, man, this dude is captivating. You know what I mean?
That's the reason why I called what you were doing back then, we'll call it back on Ustream, a show, because it wasn't just music based. As you said, you had comedy in it, you had skits in it, you had callers in it, you had a chat room back then when it was Ustream. And I've seen people speak on some of the early development stages of streaming and hip hop and podcasting and where we are today. You have the Math Hoffas and the Joe Buttons, and as I watch them, I say to myself, well, there was always like a foundation of where a lot of this stuff started. During the pandemic, it got really popular. Why did you choose not to get back involved with it? Because you were way light years ahead of it. Why didn't you get in, bring the Corrupt Mob Radio streaming podcast back?
Because I think it was a moment. You know what I mean? And the good thing is I recorded the shows, so I have all of the shows recorded. The video and audio of the shows, I have them all recorded. We did one network with different shows. DJ Shannon, Miss Parker 411. We did Prince Paul and his son had a show on our network. Who else was on? DJ Hard Hitting Harry was on there. Like all of these people that I was putting on, I was doing it like a network, and it was about music. Every single show that came on was about music. We added our personalities around the music. Nowadays, what podcasts is really all just talking and a platform of just dialogue between people talking about their histories and all that stuff. They talk about the music, but people got a chance to hear exclusives. You know what I mean? They got a chance to hear like songs that, like, I was playing Brown Bag All Stars early, and people they weren't really up on it, but I was getting music from all different DJs, and people were sending me stuff. We were doing Make It and Break It's and all of that stuff. Same kind of format other shows may have done, but in a different way. And then it was a moment, bro. And I right now to do that would probably be cool, but I have all the shows recorded,
I want to jump right in. As you're saying this, man, it's making me think, because there are trailblazers and there are people that really are the term. This person was ahead of his time. This person was ahead of their time. That, I think that term is just misused, and it's used way too much. And I'll give you an example of someone that's ahead of their time. The guy I'm talking to right now. We started out this conversation with me talking about the song Industry Shakedown and him speaking about, he said, hey D, I knew when I called out all these people, I knew my relationship with the business was a wrap. I knew that, and I knew I was going to have to do something else. 20, 30 years later, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, TuneCore, etc. You have all of these other platforms to help get this here. Let's go back 10, 15 years ago when you had Corrupt Mob Radio, which was a show, not a podcast, as you said. Now, I know, because I was one of the guests on as well, you had a person like, God rest his soul, Father Marv, where you brought in comedy. I remember there was a show that you did with your wife at the time, when was one of your biggest, I think, rated shows, and didn't she eventually go and have her own podcast on your platform as well?
Yeah.
Her own show as well, right?
Yeah. She learned it, like, it was amazing, because I taught her how to DJ. She was managing Grandmaster Flash, but we originally set it up for Flash to do it. And when we set it up for Flash to do it, he never did it. So I told her, I said, yo, go get the password for his account and just jump on my set. And I showed her how to DJ, and I saw it in her personality. So what I did was I put her on the show with me first, and I let her get comfortable on camera. And boy, once that happened, she had more followers than me for sure. But you expect that because people with that magnetic personality and that ability to reel people in because they have good conversation, they talking about facts, they doing their research, they not just jaw jabbing about shit they don't really know.
Right.
You're gonna always those people are always gonna have a draw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a great thing, and then to be able to do that, like Shannon, the whole Corrupt My Radio thing was Shannon's idea. It wasn't even my idea. DJ Shannon came to me and said, "Bump, I'm gonna start Corrupt My Radio for you." And I was like, "What is that?" He was like, he started telling me about doing the broadcast Corrupt My Radio. So when I was doing the dugout, Shannon was doing Corrupt My Radio on like kind of setting it up. He was just playing. So it really was him who sparked it in me to do it, all the way out the gate, man. Shannon. Shannon is about that music.
Absolutely.
He became the guy who researches any music I ever needed, man. Shannon was keeping me flooded.
As you're talking about that, I want to go straight to there. You mentioned two people that I know personally, Cat Miller Rap and DJ Shannon. And a lot of times when I'll talk to celebrities or people that are well known, that are celebrated, they don't speak and mention those unsung names.
Right.
They just don't. They don't mention those unsung names that are not celebrated, that are not in the Source magazine, that don't have 15,000 followers on Instagram. So you obviously, like myself, I always put out there, you have a team of people that keep you grounded and that motivate you as well.
Oh yeah, my man Flip from Maplewood. Come on, man, Flip, Cap, Shannon. You know what I mean? Rah. My Rondu. All my people are still my people. You know what I mean? Everybody that's close to me knows me. They know me well, man. I still have guys that I call and talk to, and they from the hood. They from the soil. You know what I mean? They still from they day ones, we call. I just seen Delmas, right?
Yeah,
I seen Delmas down.
Oh, there. I saw the picture with you guys. Yeah, I saw it.
And it was
on
crazy
Facebook.
Because he's a day one for me. Like, I've known this guy since we were in Grand Street. I think it was Grand Street.
And when I saw it, I thought that too. Yeah.
And it was like we were kids, man, from Westbury, like just vibing. And I always treat my day ones like that. I remember one time being with John Cena, right? And me and John Cena was at a Best Buy on Old Country Road, and I seen what's my man name from Westbury with his son online, and he was at the back of the line. And when I seen him, he said, "Oh shoot, Fox, what up?" And I said, "Yeah, what you doing?" He said, "I'm online. My son gonna get an autograph." And I took him. I picked up his son, and I told him, "Come with." I took him all the way to the front of the line. And they got a picture with John Cena, and they did all of that stuff, man. And the cat always remembered that, which was cool. You know what I mean? And,
right.
Those type of things. I've never been into the celebrity thing, though, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never been a fan of the whole big me, little you thing. I think that's whack to me because it's kind of natural to say that somebody's talented. You know what I mean? But if we're gonna treat people different based on that, then there's people that ain't in the music business that should be treated like that. Like I think I got uncomfortable with it when I went into a store one time and I had the money to buy what I wanted and the guy wanted to give it to me free, but he was making everybody else pay.
How do you deal with that? Yeah, how do you?
I didn't like that shit, man. So I kind of wanted to detach myself from the whole celebrity thing. Like, I'm not a big fan of, people may treat me like that in some places I go, or if I do something. I don't do a lot of shows and stuff, but when I do, it's a show up. And then, I talk to people, I kick it. I don't like the whole celebrity thing. I'm not a fan of that shit.
Because what?
It just makes you feel detached. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to feel. I want to be able to have a conversation with somebody on a level that's just normal, not feeling like we always talking about. I just can't see myself always looking up at somebody else's accomplishments and not focusing on my own as well. So, you know what I'm saying? There's no balance there for me. You know what I mean? I want to be, man, what you doing? What's up with you, homie? What's good, man?
Right.
Everything cool? Basic conversation, We talk about food, we talk about music, we talk about sports, whatever it is. Just it ain't gotta be me being bigger than you. You know what I mean? You a human being, I'm a human being. We all got a date. You know what I
So,
mean?
so that being said, has your reputation in the hip hop community, that's something that you've never really embraced. You know, this bad boy, big, bully reputation. You've never embraced that, have you?
Not really, because when people meet me, they say, "Yo, Fox is cool as hell." You know, he's a cool dude. But my rhyming, people get caught up in that because I'm a passionate MC. So
Passionate,
passionate
scary.
MC, very passionate MC, bro. So if the music, you ever listen to my songs, you'll say, "Yo, listen to me over Premiere," right? And then you listen to me over Pete, and then you listen to me over Alchemist, you listen to me over Static Selector, you listen to me over Clark Kent, you listen to me over Scratch, you listen to me over Beat Miners, you listen to me over my own stuff, you listen to me over Knots. Everything is different. All of it's different. Everything is because everybody don't give you. If you attach yourself to the vibe of the beat that you get, and some cats be so in the rush to rhyme
Right.
that they forget to do the one key thing that everybody in this business should be doing is listening. This is a listening business. If you sit down and you listen to the track, you know how many times I produce cats, man, and I got to tell them, dog, you're not even rhyming on the beat. What are you talking about? And they go, yo, I have to move their vocals or fix this stuff. I like mixing people's records for them. I'll produce for anybody that I think should be on the track. But I'm always going to tell you something that you could fix better or do better, because that's what I feel is a gift that I have. My experience is somebody else's gift. You know
Do
what
you
I'm
like
saying?
that? What do you like better? Being an artist as writing your own records, or producing and helping other artists? As you said, hey, I love mixing people's stuff and improving it. What do you like better?
I like it all, man. It's all part of the bubble. You know what I mean? Like to be able to do it
What
and
an
know what I'm
answer.
talking about,
It's
to
all the
be able
same
to do
thing.
it and know what I'm talking about is such a blessing for me, bro. To be able to say, somebody say to me, "Yo, Bump, man, would you do my record?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I'll tell them, I got a couple of things I need to say. Number one, I'll do your record, but I gotta write it when I feel it, when it hit me. I don't try to tell me about you on your last song and you want to rush me and all that. Don't think you're gonna overwork me with a free verse, a video, and then you want me to use my whole platform to promote your record, and you don't have a marketing plan. So you don't have a budget, you don't have a marketing plan. I want people to have some kind of accountability when they come to an artist
Word.
like an AG, a OC,
Yes.
or any of these guys that are legendary 90s spitters or whatever spitter you come at. Have your shit together, because I know me. I'll say, okay, I'll do the record, but until I see you got a publishing company, because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. If I register this record at 100% now, don't call me later when you finally decide you got a publishing company and you want to tell me you want because I'm not gonna unregister anything.
Right.
So if you ain't ready when it's time to go, either we don't do the record or we do the record, and it's gonna be a piece of promotion for you. So people need to have their shit together. You know what I mean? And I like all of it, because it's class. It's mind frame. Class is open. Come on in. You know what I mean? What
That's a
nature
great
imparts to
answer.
man is called human nature. To follow that nature is called the way. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm telling you is if you listen to the lyrics and people stop being so judgmental on everything, you should listen to the lyrics of MCs that really know. I love X Clan, bro,
Why?
because they did their own thing in a time when it was needed, and still is needed. But as it started to fade, they never switched up. They still was X Clan to me. You know what I mean? I never even said to anybody before that I love X Clan. I loved X Clan. I remember we was in that moment of Black Power and
That's
chains
right.
and red, black, and green Africa pendants on. And I remember that time. That was an era that we came through.
Right.
You know what I mean? And as we come through these eras, you have to take what you have that you want to take with you into the next era, and use that, and then get what you. It's a stockpile of wisdom, experiences, and that shit has to articulate through your music. So
Agreed.
you can't be in the back in a back dude from back in the days, and you want to rap like you back in the days, but then you want to try to do it. You have to make it work. There's a way to make it work. You know what I mean? I did a song with Wayne Ski called Can I MC? And he was cutting, I think it was Frisco Disco or whatever. He was cutting it back and forth, and I was rapping in an old style that I used to do back in the park. But that was because I wanted to show people that you don't have to actually let that go. You don't have to do all of this switching up. Just keep your shit authentic, man, and don't let nobody tell you what your art form is. It's your art form. Stop asking people, yo, what do you think it is? What do you think of that? No, fuck that, nigga. Yo, this is what I did. This is how I did it. Check this out. Hope you like it.
Period.
And keep it moving. Because when you start asking people for their opinion, you become a slave to their answers. One person don't like your shit. Everybody's mad. Oh,
it's a rap.
He's the hater on the page because he don't like the shit. But you asked him. You know what I'm saying?
A second ago, you just mentioned X-Clan. During the X-Clan era, like you said, during that Black Pride era, and when you had conscious rap, you were affiliated with a big group that was at that time was doing some of the same things, but had more of the street element to it. Boogie Down Productions and KRS-One. You've done records with them. I've seen you perform with them. How did that come to be? How did you get? Were you ever a BDP member or just an affiliate?
What I did was Chris came and found me, and he said, "Yo, I want this." He wanted me on Rough Rough, and we went in the studio. He took me in the studio. I was downtown running crazy, and he came and found me and said, "Yo, man, I got to get you in the studio." And he pulled up on me, man. And I it's in my documentary. He tells it in my documentary in more detail. So he pulls up on me. I was in the Rolls Royce, you know, and Eric B was on tour. He said, "Bump, man, here, take the keys, man." I said, I'm gonna go downtown and get me some money. And I took the Rolls Royce and I went downtown and I started grinding.
Holy smoke.
Yeah, so
that is true.
Yeah.
I used to see you in Westbury driving around with that, and people would say, "Yo, that's Eric B's or Rakim's," and it was just like a Westbury, like, you know, myth or legend or whatever. That's true. Like, I would see you driving around with that whip, and they would say that. But go ahead.
Eric, you know, I didn't go on the road with them, man. And Eric was like, "Yo, I was like, you know, I was trying to get my money up." So, and I'm humble enough to say that Eric was one of the guys who was like always there for me, man. So he threw me the keys and I did my thing, and then KRS came and found me and took me to the studio, and we did Rough Rough in the original way. And he and I ended up bonding because, you know, two good MCs, man, just in the room rocking together. And I always loved KRS, when I still do to this day, because he gave me a lot of opportunity. He would bring me out on stage, man, and I would just smash every time. I would body every time he brought me out. It was always one of the highlights of his shows. He would bring me out as a highlight all the time, and it was, I mean, from the time we did it on 125th Street outside when D Nice was DJing, to the clubs where he would pull up. Chris was not really a dude for sound check, so he would pull up and everything. Once it was going, it was go. And
why do you and KRS-One? Why you and Chris bond so? Is it because you guys, the way you see hip hop?
I think so, and I think because he was actually exposing me to a raw crowd of people who really love raw MCs. And when I did Rough Rough, it was 2 rhymes I did, right? So I went to the studio and I'm thinking, okay, I got to go to the studio to do the song with this guy. He be talking all this Black Power shit. I got to go do this. I got to get on my Black Power mode, right? So I get in the studio and I write this rhyme that was based around what my idea of what KRS-One was. And I was talking, it was a dope rhyme. And when I laid it, I sat down and he said, "Yeah, that's a dope rhyme, but that ain't who I'm looking for." And I was like, he said, "I want the guy that everybody's talking about." And everybody was talking about me from Flavor Unit, Hot Potato. That was the buzz. It's like, yo, the way he just came in and boom and smashed the shit. That's where the shit started from, when he said, "I want that guy right there." So I said, okay, cool. And then I went back in the booth and I had some rhymes in my head and some rhymes that I wrote because I brought my books with me. So I put a few things together. They gave me a few minutes and I spit the Hot Potato. The Rough Rough verse.
Okay, stay there. Because
that was the beginning right there.
Now that I got you here, I'm going to ask a question for a lot of people that have heard that record and were fans at that time. And I'm asking this for my man Malcolm, for my boy Chauncey, and for myself, D Wiz. So there's a line in that record. All right, Karis One, as we know who he is. Back then, he used to speak up against pimps and hoes and stuff like that. Okay, and there's a line at the end of one of his verses. He says he disrespects them, yo, and we know we're not down with pimps and hoes and da 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 da. Yo, Bump, you came right behind him and said, well, you know I like hoes.
The king of be yourself, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that don't tell you that being yourself is okay, you know what I'm saying? It's all good. You got to do what you do. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to let KRS-One or anybody else make me be anything other than do other than what I do, and they never tried to. Nobody has ever asked me to change my rhyme. I've never complained about any beat that I ever got on. Some of this shit I probably never would have picked as an MC to rap on. But I'm not from the era of time of where you get the luxury to pick a beat. You know what I'm saying? Some of these guys now hit you up and ask you, they'll go picking through your beats like they got hit records or something. And I was like, nah, dog, I come from the park. I'm in the park with Rakim and
Right.
and the Love Brothers and Supreme Force and Superstar and Ramel and Salam. I'm in the park with real
Bismarcky.
I come from the park with real, and these dudes were better than me, a lot of them. So I was a cat that was on the come up. My shit was about getting better at time. I was able to really access information that made me a better artist over time. So my journey was a climb. So when I got to the KRS-One level, I was ready, man. Because of them niggas in the park, I was ready for that. I was ready for Chris. I was ready to be on the same record with him, to rock with him. He's an amazing MC. He puts a lot of pressure on you when you rock with him. A lot of pressure. Anybody who ever did a song with KRS-One that say they didn't feel pressure is lying. They're lying, because he's that good. He's that good, and it's not always about what he says, but how he says it, and the confidence in which he says it can overshine any flow if you don't know what you're doing. If you're not a standout MC, be careful who you jump on songs with. There's cats who've always called me, yo, man, would you do a song with me? I'm like, yeah, and then I'll hear them, and I'll be like, all right, let me tone it down. I won't not do the record, but I'll tone it down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And not because they're not good, but that's the level that they're spitting on. Sometimes you gotta, or you just overshine people with energy, and people start picking that second verse, fuck the first verse. Then the record is no good now.
Word.
You know what I'm saying?
Now I know you make beats, and we're here in this hip hop, this '90s era. I want to ask you some questions, Bump. Some like uncomfortable questions, brother. Pete Rock or Premier?
You mean between the two?
As a producer.
I can't answer that. I can tell you this. I know why I love both of them, but I can't pick one over the other, because I've worked with both of them. And
I know.
My experiences with Premier are different from the ones with Pete. And because Pete brings out something in me that's so soulful, man. Like, Pete makes me dig into my blackness. And his music is lineage, is a Jamaican lineage, so his bass lines say something to me different. That Industry Shakedown bass line, bro, is so incredible that I couldn't have said anything else on that record, man. The way and the dope shit about Pete is you never know when his production is going to actually surface, because he's going to build on that record till it's finished. Premier brought a side of me out that was just really raw and unapologetic. You know what I mean? Like I could get on Premier's music, man, and my lyrics just start flowing from somewhere that just deep. You know what I mean? And then he's the first producer that ever said to me, Bump, that line right there, you could say that a little bit less aggressive. He's the first producer that started giving me direction in the booth. You know, I've never been asked to change a lyric, I've always said stuff that people were good with, but Premier was the one who said, and then what I took from that was I make my adjustments with one producer. It teaches me how to make adjustments with other producers as well. You know what I mean? Because every producers have to be able to produce. When you tell somebody that they're gonna produce you, now you guys gotta open up your ears and listen to somebody who's sitting on the other side of that glass that's creating a piece of art that you're a part of. But that's the maestro. So you can't. Some guys don't want to listen to a producer. They just want to tell a producer, yo. They don't even use producers. They just use engineers. Producers have been minimized to make the beat.
Yeah, make the beat. What they call beat makers, those aren't producers. Those are
Yeah,
beat
they say,
makers.
oh, well, the producer made the beat. They call him a producer, but producers do a lot more than that. That sound that's being developed, they're articulating that sound. I need, they're messing with knobs with the engineers, just like the pilot. But then there's a person that's saying, yo, you have to make it sound like this, or they're either doing it themselves, like a Dr. Dre or a Timbaland or a Swiss Beats or one of them who actually get in there and turn knobs themselves. There's, guys like Just Blaze and guys like that. Those producers and guys like that, they hear shit as an MC is doing it, and you have to be able to take direction as an MC, as an artist. If you ain't coming with it automatic, then you got to allow somebody to direct you to the right path on their music, because it's a marriage now. You're in business together. So that's his position. Yours as an artist is to do what you do, get your vocals down, and then Tupac out, B.
Pete Rock, from my experience, in my opinion, during that time in that mid 90s, early mid 90s area, he was the producer for me as a musician specifically. And you mentioned something critical about his music, bass lines.
Mhm.
When I would hear his filtered bass lines that he would bring through the SP 1200. Now, I'll be honest with you, Bump. For me as a musician, I was never really attracted to the production end of hip hop. Larry Smith is pretty much, and like Davey D, Herbie Lovebugs, those guys are the guys that I really gravitated towards in the late 80s and the early 90s. But when Pete Rock came out, I could tell he wasn't maybe necessarily a musician that understood music theory, but he understood music. Like yourself, like he understood. I could hear, like you said earlier in this conversation. Yo, D man, you can hear talent when you can hear it. It's obvious. It's notable. It's very obvious. And when I first started hearing it, brother, like they reminisce over you. I think I've listened to the instrumental of that more times in my life than I've listened to the record with the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the instrumental, because it's so from the the way the intro goes before the horns come in. And bro, if you're not a fan of that, then I don't understand what you're a fan of when it comes to hip hop production. I'm gonna bring another producer into this conversation that, in my opinion, he is Pete Rock's rivalry, but not rivalry, but competition more than Premier is, and that's Large Professor. How do you feel about Large Professor? His bass lines, to me, that was the Pete Rock twin
Mm-hmm.
instead of Premier.
First collaboration I ever did was G-Rap. Eric B's brother Ant Live put me on in the studio with G-Rap to do Money in the Bank. Large Professor did the beat for it. I knew then that he was talented. You know what I mean? I haven't done anything else with him, but I always wanted to do more with him. But he really studies the art form.
Jeez.
Like he's a master at the art form, and a lot of times, got people like him, because he rhymes, and he'll get on stage and rap and all that. Sometimes people will forget how talented he
Did
is
the beat.
as a producer. You know what I
Jeez.
mean? He's a serious guy on the production side. He's dope, very dope. I love Large Professor.
I love and for me, you see my drums in the background, and I know you pay attention. We're gonna go into a little nerdy part of music conversation right now. I know you pay attention really hard to drums and drum sounds. Large Professor and Pete Rock during that time, they had that similar thing. I heard Large Professor do it first. When he would take the snare drum and put it on the one. I heard him do it first. and he does it clean because when he does it, he takes the bass drum away, and it's just pure snare drum, and it sounds so much more accented when he does it. I
Hmm.
started hear Pete Rock doing it later on, and like they reminisce over you and that incredible remix he did to House of Pain, the Jump Around remix. But Pete has mastered the horns, in my opinion, where Large Professor didn't really pay attention to them so much. He is a bass line and a drum groove person. I personally bump whenever this conversation comes up about producers of that era. Large Professor is my number one. Do you remember that Slick Rick remix he did for It's a Boy?
Yeah, yeah, he killed that shit. But see, my first experience with underground boom bap wasn't Premiere. It was Lord Finesse and digging in the crates. So that's my when I was doing Crazy Like a Fox, I was in the studio with Finesse, Showbiz, and Buck Wild and Big L. And Big L wasn't in there doing nothing but getting on my damn nerves and acting like a little brother who wanted to pick at motherfuckers. But he was a sweetheart. He was a good dude,
Yeah,
and he was in there.
that's hilarious.
He was in there giving off this energy that made me, because L would say some shit like, "Yeah, that rhyme is cool." I was like, "Who is this little nigga?" You know what I'm saying?
Yo, what?
And then he'll laugh and he'll love your shit, but he'll just fuck with you. Like and those guys became family for me around that time, especially because Ness was bringing me out of a horrible situation that I'd had with my first album, and I was like, man, that was my first stump, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta, I had to pull away for a little while to try to establish myself on my own. And Finesse was the one who said, yo, and I was in his house, man, watching this guy with this SP 1200 and this 950, and I was like, yo, his sound is bananas. And then
Lord Finesse, like lyrical, like the cat that we were
Lord
all like,
Finesse,
this cat
Lord
is the most underrated lyrical dude of our time.
Dog,
He was ill
Lord
in the beat
Finesse,
spin.
Lord Finesse is is listen, man. I said a line in 45 Dawn. I birth a style like Finesse birth L. Metaphors turn to better eights work well. Because Lord Finesse is like him and Showbiz and Buck Wild and Diamond D. Like before you get into talk about underground to anybody, you gotta mention Digging in the Crates. I'm just saying this off the top because some of the best lyricists, all of them dudes are somebody. All of them are somebody in this culture, man. And Fat Beats was built on the backs of Digging in the Crates. I don't care what nobody said. I'll say that shit
Wait,
public.
Fat Beats the record store?
Yeah, man. Lord Finesse put me on, and everybody that was, a lot of cats that was going there got put on because Lord Finesse and them guys was figuring out before all of these indie talking shit was going on. They was figuring out how to do this without labels.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like straight up real street music from the Bronx. Boom bap 90s shit.
That was God damn. So Diamond D, yeah, whoo. Yeah, you're
Come on,
there.
dog. Diamond D, you don't yo dog, I would be, that's one guy. He did Bumpy Bring It Home. And I had never heard that version of the sample before, but Diamond D is an amazing brain. That dude thinks, and then none of them sound the same. Finesse don't sound like Showbiz. Showbiz don't sound like Buck, and Buck don't sound like Diamond.
Right.
If you can't, with one of them you could get a whole album done. But imagine having all of them, or you know what I'm saying? Like I've been working with these guys. These guys were another guys who used to take me around and yo Bump, man, we got a show. They would bring me out to rock, highlight me on their sets. You know what I mean? So that's the camaraderie that the 90s MCs had at one time. You know what I mean? You could, before all of the fake handshaking and bowing and kissing hand shit started, these dudes, it was dudes that was really genuine with each other. You know what I'm saying? And those guys are still my friends to this day. And I believe that if that strong strength and bond keeps us making music together, because I learned from them. I learned how to do independent records before Industry Shakedown. I learned independence from Law Finesse. It took a while for me to get to Industry Shakedown. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I was blackballed way before Industry Shakedown. Dog. I was blackballed way before
I was
Industry
making
Shakedown.
noise, D.
Yeah, I'm the king of that shit. I was born black and bald. I'm still black and bald. You know what I'm saying?
Still black and ball.
I gotta own that. You know what I mean? And I'm good with it. And my thing is all that cancel talk and
Right.
blackballing and all that. That only matters if I need you.
Right.
If I don't need you, dog, then you take that title and kick rocks. You know what I'm saying? But at
Right.
the end of it all, those guys, man, and guys like Clark Kent. Clark Kent. I used to go to Clark Kent house, bro, and he would sit in the studio with me, right? And I would look at him producing records and making. You talk about a technical genius. People don't talk about Clark Kent enough because he's so incredibly talented as a producer. I got Clark Kent records that I never released.
Really?
Yeah, I mean some sick shit, bro. I used to perform. One of them was for Industry Shakedown, and I was gonna put it on there, but then I pulled it back. I was doing this record in Europe. Premier would give me a set. He would say, "Yo, Bump, after Guru do this record, after we finish the Militia, you rock 3 songs." And I was like, "All right, cool." And he would take through, and one of them was a Clark Kent record that I have that was for Industry Shakedown, and I don't know why I held it back, but I'm glad I did because it's a classic piece of work. I might put a snippet of it on my Instagram one day with a picture of him, man. I got a picture of me and him.
I have a question about that. Like, why do you guys hold on to material?
Because it's like wine, bro. Like, imagine if I threw all my shit out there right now, man, with all this people just taking stuff and putting it up and using it and bastardizing everything that you do. Something has to be sacred with your artwork. And it's a form of protection where you have to monitor how you release things. Because just throwing everything out to the fire, it don't work like that. Because if you can't make your work for you, if you can't make your music work for you, if you can't make your art work for you, then it's going to be working for somebody else. You know what I mean? And at some point, it's going to be working for somebody else anyway. So you got to try to be as careful as you can about how you release your records, when you release your records, the format in which you do it. A lot of cats don't realize, man, back in the days when we wanted album covers, we went to art guys.
Yeah.
Like, was it Say is it Say Adams?
Jamaica Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, Say was at Def Jam.
What was the name? They used to do all the DJs covers.
Yo, we would go to real art guys to get our artwork done because it wasn't just
Tape
about.
kings.
Now these dudes would just take a picture, put a filter on it,
Yeah.
put some fake diamonds on their neck and all that. But we really put thought and energy into releasing product, and then we didn't care what people think because it ain't gonna. You not liking it ain't gonna make me change it. So.
Bump, you're dropping some stuff because quick story. I remember in talking about like those days when we had to go. The process of that as a DJ, we would have to make our mixtape, as you said, get someone to do your artwork for you.
Yeah, man.
They send it to you, and you take that artwork actually to a printing place.
Yeah.
And get it printed up, however many covers you need of this particular tape, and you personally go around all the boroughs to these, mom and pop stores, check cashing places, and, Jamaica Avenue's 125th or a Hot Day store and stuff like that. Brother, I remember getting in trouble with people that would bootleg your stuff, or, they sold your this many, tapes and they didn't want to pay you. That was hip hop. No, not was. That is hip hop, Bumpy.
Yeah, the grind is hip hop. I mean, even right now, the grind is hip hop. It's just another level of it. I'm not saying that. Hey, listen, I used to have to take my records to record stores and sell them to the guy, like consignment. I was like, okay, listen, you sell. They'll take 5. You got a box of records, right? They'll take 5 records. Now you got to go to another store and try to get somebody else to take 5 records. Record stores weren't always up under each other. Jamaica Avenue had a spot. Harlem had their spots. You know what I'm saying? So you had to go driving around and make some moves. And then these records in the trunk. You go down into Philly and up into Connecticut and all these different places where people were starting to move records in vinyl places. But you wasn't walking in Tower Records and dropping off no records to nobody. You wasn't
consignment.
because now it wasn't happening. If they didn't order your shit, they didn't order. But that's the thing. When you commit to being independent, it's a real commitment, and knowing how to do that means, you got to not only make the record, but you got to figure out how to package the product and make it the best you can make it in order to sell it to the community. And nowadays online, you could just put shit up, and then what people are not paying attention to is who's not watching. Because
what do you mean by that?
People are sitting around saying, "Oh, so and so, you follow me and you didn't like my post. So fucking what? I mean, like, fuck out of here with that shit." You know what I mean? But who's not watching? You know what I'm saying? How are you putting this out? How are you? Are you being creative with it? Or some people don't even do the proper aspect ratio on their posts. It should be all swole up. You can't see. You can't see nothing. You know what I mean? Just put a little time into your shit. That shit goes a long, 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 long way. When you put time and effort into making a creative post, there's some really creative people out here. I see it every day. I see it all the time. Music business wise, somewhat, but I wish people would get back to individualizing their sound again. You know what I mean? I'm just people will tell you they got a banger and it's the same beat that was on the last record. It's just a different voice, probably talking the same shit but in a different way. But they got to be more creative, man. I really embrace that. You know what I mean? And people that are haters don't tell you that. They tell you to keep doing what you're doing because they know it's wrong. I want to see people be creative and make the culture bigger and better because there's such a great diverse sound. And you got Public Enemy, and we always end up going back to this era because to me it was different.
Speak on it.
Public Enemy didn't sound like Eric B. and Rakim, and Eric B. and Rakim didn't sound like Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh. Everything was different. Everything had its own unique sound to it. Mo D was different from the Cold Crush. These guys were in the parks doing it, so you can't get rid of those days, man. But take something from it and know how to use the inspiration. So if somebody inspires you, it don't mean take what they do and do it over. It means take that inspiration, incorporate it into something that you create originally and build on it, But dudes, like I said before, would stand and take credit for being the first to ever do it, and then they probably like the 101st to ever do it.
So we're going to actually close where we started because you're going there right now, and here is the question that I initially started out with. So what are your thoughts, Bumpy Knuckles, on independence versus being signed today in 2023?
Well, I can tell you this: I have no idea what's going on in the label world. So I'm if I had to make some sort of a educated guess, I would think that it's just the same shit, just different players, because the game don't change, the players change. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure you don't hear, back in the days, people knew the A&Rs like they knew the rappers. I don't know those guys, and I can't say they're not popular because I'm not in that lane. And you don't have no crowd to follow when you're in your own lane. So I don't know what the record is. So somebody said, "Yo, would you ever do Industry Shakedown too?"
That was my last question.
I said,
I'll close with that.
I said, no. I said, because if I did, I'd lose a lot of friends. Because the only thing I have to talk about what I know. When I did Industry Shakedown, I was in the middle of a situation in my life. Everything was right there for me to write about. Right now, I couldn't tell you who A&R was. I don't care. I don't give two shits who they are. I don't know nothing about them motherfuckers. I look at what I do, and I see a lot of guys who came through the Industry Shakedown era with me that have actually been hung and beaten and taught their names. So now they know their names. So I'm like, yo, man.
That's a bar.
And I love some of these guys as artists. So I'm cool with Industry Shakedown. Just go back to the first one and listen to that and hold on to it. And then the space I'm in, I'm about that. I'm about making music that builds. I just got a new project I did with Daru Jones, Mono Neon, called The Funkin' Tribe. It's spelled Phunkin, Funkin', Trybe, Tribe, one word. And it's a lot. It's me with a live band, which I always wanted to do, man. And those two guys did it with me, and it's an amazing piece coming out. It should be dropping actually shortly in the next. By the time this video is out, it should be out. But You know, yeah, just
Oh.
different stuff. I want to keep adding to the catalog and adding to the stuff that I do, man, and making music for people and producing for people. I worked with the John Cena WWE thing. I did that. I took hip hop to the platform. I'm sure they might have done it before, but not like that. I was the one that took hip hop to the platform. John was like, "Yo, let's get it. Let's do an album. I'm with it. Let's rock." Everywhere I go, I take hip hop with me. So if I did something that wasn't hip hop, I was hip hop in that moment.
No, it was still hip hop.
It was still hip hop.
And I want to invite you back, Bump, because you brought up John Cena a few times in here, and I want to ask you and get your opinion also about writing in hip hop. It's that's been such a topic since the Drake controversy about is it acceptable to have ghostwriters in hip hop, and if not, why not? If it's acceptable in other forms of music, and I definitely when we come back, I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, no doubt. I didn't write for John Cena though.
Oh, you
Everybody
didn't?
thought I did, but he wrote his own rhymes. Yeah, I didn't write for John. Everybody always say, "Yo, you wrote John's rhymes." So what was dope is they already associated his verses with something that I would write because as an art, he's inspired by what I do. So you know what I mean. He took what he. And I got record with him, me, John Cena, and Talib Kweli that I never put out. That's produced by Odyssey.
More held on art.
Yeah, classic shit, man. And the longer I hold it, the more value it has, as far as just in my heart. My like those records, you just don't throw them out there. Talib is an amazing MC, and he's one of them guys that
Yes.
you know he's a hardcore purist when it comes to hip hop. He's about the hip hop. So I try to work with guys and do stuff with people that I admire their work. I didn't get everybody that I wanted to work with, but hopefully, I'm around long enough to accomplish that. But you know, this kind of stuff is amazing. Being a kid from 269 Sheridan Street in Westbury, man, and growing up, me and Cap sitting on the back of Victor's porch rapping on in the backyard and running around corners and just not even really knowing what hip hop was, man, and just becoming something that's bigger and better than what everybody expected us to be.
Well, you definitely did see something, Bump, in the future from when people go in and listen to and read the lyrics to Industry Shakedown, you 100% saw the future, and one day when you eventually do put out the corrupt mob radio, the shows that people can actually see on video,
Mhm.
they'll see the same thing. Hey, whoa, this cat did this in what year and what time period, and that's when the history of like hip hop podcasting starts to get written because Bump, I know you're inside the history of hip hop podcasting. These were shows. They weren't just music that was being played.
Yeah. I never wanted to be that guy who I watch a lot of these dudes, man. Everybody's fighting for credit. They're doing shit first and all that. Hey, listen, fuck whether you did it first. Did you do it good? Did you do it right? Did you do it to the satisfaction that you wanted to create it? Because all of that arguing over who started this and who started that, a lot of those bubbles get busted when the truth come out. But I don't really care about that shit, dog. I know I'm glad you acknowledge it, and I'm sure other people will. But I don't. I know I did it, and I have it as an archive, and they will come out. But first, last, I just want people to say, yo, I like that shit. Like, I still got people to this very day who call themselves mobsters from the Corrupt Mob Radio. And shout out to the Corrupt Mob Motorcycle Club, Queens, New York, and Atlanta. Shout out to Big Beazle. Beazle's in Atlanta with the Corrupt Mob Motorcycle Club, and Big Rocky and Super Mario are in Queens with the club out there. And I'm one of the founders because I wanted Corrupt Mob to be bigger than. That was my brother's thing. My brother Taheem is the reason I did the deal on Industry Shakedown. With Landspeed, because he was doing Corrupt Mob Records, and when he passed, I wanted to make sure that I took that and turned it into something that would always be around. This right here is important because it represents more than just whatever I attach it to. You know what I mean? If it's
Right.
music, if it's radio, if it's production company, if it's motorcycle clubs, collectively I'm building a family across, state lines with people who are of the same mind and likeness that fuck with us. We got an anniversary coming up soon. There's a lot going on out here and people are focusing on things that don't matter. You have to focus on things that matter. Leave yourself a legacy out here of music, art, the stuff that people can go back and say, yo, man, I got a classic underground tape. Some of my most valuable things, one of my most valuable things are all those underground parties with the Cold Crush and Melly Mel and all them dudes, Mo D and Lisa Lee and Sha Rock and all of them rocking in parties. That reminds me so much of me being young, just standing in amazement, watching these DJs like, yo, you know what I mean? Salute Long Island, man. That
Yeah.
was my stomping ground, bro. Amityville, the Ace Center, you know what I'm saying? Wyandanch in the park, you know, everybody couldn't go in Wyandanch Park and rhyme, man. You know what I'm saying? Westbury, when Marv used to throw those reminisce parties and
Council
all those,
Park.
you know, those things like that, man. You can't ever forget those trails that you had to blaze to get where we are today, man. And you know, your level of success is your level of success. There's a lot of cats that would have never bounced back from being blackballed. I'm saying I never
Right.
had to bounce back because I just kept it moving.
No, you're right. Correct. You
Bounce back
know,
for what?
uh, you know, um, I want to end on this, and I know we've been saying this for a quick second.
Yeah.
Um, I just Googled it. There's 7.8 billion people on the planet Earth. So for someone to say, I'm the first to do this, like, to double up on what you're saying, to put an exclamation mark on it. I'm the first to such and such. The first to, there are 7.8 billion
Mm.
people on the planet Earth. So that's a really big claim to make for someone to say they're the first to do just whatever it is. Like you said, Bump, hey, look, something always comes from somewhere else.
Imagine if they all went and bought Industry Shakedown right now.
That's right, bro. Go and get it. Industry Shakedown. Stream it because this guy produced it and he predicted. Look, Bump. This is a prediction. The way people look at George Orwell in 1984, the book, and people Nostradamus. You look, man. Listen, guys. Listen to Industry Shakedown. This is much more detailed than Industry Rule number 4080. That being said, Mr. Freddie Foxxx, Bumpy Knuckles, my brother, thanks for coming and hanging out with me and always just conversing with me and breaking it down, brother.
Yeah, we'll do a part two, my brother. We can really rap. You know what I mean? I appreciate you for having me, though. I'm glad we did it.
So am I, my brother. Peace.
Peace, bro.